Hello and welcome to the Robot Wars History podcast where we chart the development of this show and the British robot combat scene in general by looking at key teams and bots. I'm your host Luke, and with me today is Nick.
Yep, I'm here.
And Toast.
Evening, ladies and gentlemen.
And we have a very special episode for you today because we are coming to you live from the Robot Wars History podcast studios. In other words, Toast's flat. And today we'll be covering everyone's favourite seafood creature.
I thought you were going to call it a see-through creature. I'm like, we're not doing kilohertz, are
we? Yes, we are talking THERMIDOR and THERMIDOR 2.
Yes, specifically opening up with THERMIDOR as well. You know, you're more associated for that successful sequel, but the original THERMIDOR had a completely different weapon system, a circular saw and primary grabbing weapons to go on that comedy lobster design before it evolved into the more well-known claws and flipper seen on THERMIDOR 2, which would set many records and many entertaining moments to come. But I suppose the only reasonable way to start would be with THERMIDOR's campaign in Series 3.
Yeah, there wasn't really much of a campaign, was there?
You say that, Nick, but let us not forget that THERMIDOR had one of the greatest debuts of any robot, dominating a returning semi-finalist effortlessly.
Literally effortlessly.
Yeah, because the semi-finalist didn't move.
Well, it did, just on one side the whole time.
Is this the quickest knockout in Robot Wars history? That, of course, was Plunderstorm, the follow-up to the relatively...
THERMIDOR and Plunderstorm, what a fight.
Yeah, just the versions of the robots with that slightly different name. It's not exactly THERMIDOR 2 maxed out from the reboot.
No.
But yeah, I mean, more down to Plunderstorm letting everybody down than THERMIDOR showing what it's made of. But it does make for a nice, entertaining clash in the post-battle interviews. You know, after a complete nothing battle, Plunderstorm still hams it up. Like, better watch out, there's Plunderstorm coming next year. And then you just follow it up with the blandest interview ever. Like, the guys who've built this comedy lobster, who you'd really expect to be a personality team. I recall the interview just being to the young kid on the THERMIDOR team, Eli, not quite yet with our captain and driver, David Harding and Ian Harvey. Philippa just says to Eli, "Did you enjoy that?" "Yes." "So you're through to the next round?" "Yes." "Alright, good luck to you over there." "Thanks."
Perfect.
Yeah, and unfortunately THERMIDOR's brief campaign doesn't really pipe up much from there. They have a pretty standard loss against Scutter's Revenge. It's a weirdly packed heat, this. You've got Cassius, you've got Pussycat, you've got returning semi-finalists, and then you've got two bots that'll go on to make at least two semi-finals.
Yeah, Scutter's Revenge and THERMIDOR. You gotta feel bad for the Zeuses and the Hammerheads of the world in this heat, packed in with Cassius, Plunderbird, Pussycat, Scutter's Revenge and THERMIDOR. But yeah, I mean, this is a one-sided showing from Scutter's Revenge, really. THERMIDOR feeling a bit out of place in the second round at all, and is quite swiftly pitted. But, you know, THERMIDOR left its mark on the series. It was remembered. Heading into Series 4, people wanted to see more of it. I just don't think they were prepared for it to actually be good.
Yeah. Because, obviously when they do end Series 4, they return in the form that we will know them for the rest of their career, the claws and the flipper, and thankfully losing the weird plastic head. That I'm happy they ditched that and went with the painted. It looks a lot better.
But with a really long body in Series 4.
Oh, yeah.
I think they kept the body from the Series 3 design actually, and it was really long, and I think they had problems testing their Shremek capabilities with that, so later on they adjusted it. But here, you know, they didn't need to write themselves in the melee, did they, against good old Chronic the Wedgehog and another big scalp to take, Gravedigger.
THERMIDOR only messes with legends. This comedy lobster has fought a heat winner in all three of its battles so far. And Thermidor, it kind of doesn't really get enough credit for its performance in this opening melee.
I mean, Chronic's doing the work here. Thermidor gets...
That's the thing though, Chronic gets the kill, but Thermidor
Chronic gets the lift, Thermidor gets the chuck. So it's like a little assist and then the flip over. Both take the credit. It's like a really modestly okay fight though. You wouldn't mind watching it. If it comes up in your recommended, you'll give it a go, but you wouldn't search it out.
Of course, this is a fight where Gravedigger's weapon just blatantly didn't work. So it was, even though it was seeded, it was somewhat of an inevitability, but it was still fast paced, and there was a seeding upset at the end of the day. Things probably could have gone differently had Gravedigger been able to flip, but it also may have broken the flipper in the battle instead, and then just lost on damage through the loss of their primary weapon. But Thermidor and Chronic instead kind of advancing as the Heat favourites when you consider that Thermidor is fighting the other seeded robot in its next battle.
Oh, for God's sake.
That being Dreadnought XP1.
Certainly beaten some high tier robots, hasn't it? Good grief.
Yeah, this is their first fight in Robot Wars that's not against a past or future Heat winner, but it's still the 27th seed.
I mean, it's still a robot that barely works from the off against it. Just hobbling, then we get the big flip, and then Thermidor gets another win, basically.
That flip is fantastic.
It is, yeah.
Like, for the longest time, I misremembered that as an Uber, because it seems so much
just
like
stitch that and the Chaos 2 on Tornado together.
Yeah.
That's what you imagine it to be.
Yeah, I mean, even if Dreadnought just hit the wall at like a weird angle, maybe it would have just rolled over it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't to be. Dreadnought stays within the arena and then gets completely dismantled by Sir Kill-a-Lot and friends. But it's a statement win from Thermidor, as we call it these days. Just giving Dreadnought the hands and feet, and puts them into a Heat final against Chronic the Wedgehog again, to see who truly was the better robot all along.
Spoiler alert, it's Thermidor.
For such a modestly decent battle again, this is probably going to be a running theme with Thermidor. A decent fight, but neither of them ever get a full flip in. It's quite funny. They both lift each other a lot, but none of them complete an actual attack. Well, there is damage later on, to be fair, but...
I think Chronic would struggle to overturn the weird long Thermidor, and Chronic's like very low ground clearance. Thermidor would probably struggle to get under, but they don't need to because they stab them through the face.
Yeah, it's a wonderfully crafty shot. One of the only times we ever see proper damage from a flipper, and just the kind of attack you'd never really see again. Thermidor capitalising on Chronic's open flipper and punching through it with its own flipper. You know, what else can you even remember about the match when something that strange just takes over your entire memory of the bout?
You just imagine that one attack on Polycarp completely immobilises Chronic, but it kind of just dies at one point instead. But we'll count it as a KO job, I guess. It's still a memorable moment.
And that means that Thermidor too, having just been the complete joke in Series 3 and then coming back with no expectations in Series 4, has actually gone on to win a Heat and been, I think, the second unseeded Heat winner as well, third after Dominator and Tornado. And Thermidor just joined those ranks. But Julia Reed just can't give it any credit for the job. The whole way through the Heat, she's disparaging it and is doing the same in the semi-finals build-up as well, mocking them for having mini Metro wheels and for being a lobster. As they move into a battle with the 19th seed Pussycat, and she's written them off, and I mean, kind of rightfully so in a battle like this, but Thermidor puts on a brilliant display, I would say.
Yeah,
absolutely.
They brought the streak of moderately decent battles to a halt here, that's for sure. I mean, it's truly stunning because Thermidor, especially when you take into context what's to come, they are not a robot you expect to be able to boss Pussycat around, and then after they've stopped being able to, take so much damage from them. Like, you could not imagine the Thermidor of Series 5 and 6 to come start taking this to the judges.
Yeah, it's really a tale of two halves as well. Like, if this was a modern fight with a 3-minute time limit, this was a reboot battle, which Thermidor did take part in after all. Thermidor versus Killy Cranky.
Oh, God.
Yeah, if this was a 3-minute battle, then Thermidor surely would have romped it. Because it was only in those... I mean, granted, the televised broadcast of the battle was edited down to 1.5 minutes. So it's hard to tell how much of it was Thermidor dominance and how much of it was really Pussycat. But if you assume it's evenly distributed, then yeah, there's a good 3-minute bout of Thermidor dominance before Pussycat finally gets its act together and wins on damage. Thermidor does leave as an absolute mess.
Yeah.
But it does still work, and I give them real credit for surviving the whole bout and giving us genuinely kind of unprecedented flipper height at that point in time. Only Wheelie Big Cheese and Chaos 2 had managed that kind of height.
Yeah, and Wheelie Big Cheese did it on Kilotron, which just like fell off the top of it rather than actually lifting it up. So Thermidor got it off the flipper and into the air high enough. So yeah, I think we can give it that.
Yeah, Wheelie Big Cheese just like carried the mattress up to the second floor of the house and dropped it out the window, but Thermidor chucked it up there. Pussycat's genuinely leaving the frame of the camera. It's brilliant, but damage carries more weight. They've gone for Pussycat, and that was your lot. For the whole podcast.
Yep, we're done.
It's got some other campaigns. Not too bothered about them, unless you wanted to go over the sumo. Yeah. Extreme then, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. It wasn't able to join its fellow unseeded Heat winners, Tornado and Dominator 2, into the All-Stars, but it still got some decent extreme fights in there, so...
Oh, plenty more than decent, I would say. They go up to that kind of 100 kilogram mark. They round off the back of the robot so it can self-right better. Presumably an even better flipper in there along the way.
Yeah.
Less of a focus on the claws. They've been flattened now so they're not getting in the way, and they're kind of a pseudo wedge. Not a very good wedge, but kind of less in the way than they were before. And their first combat appearance in Extreme must have been the Mayhem, right?
Yeah, I mean, we can take it tournament by tournament if we want, so I guess we would start with the Mayhem.
Keep the momentum going of all Thermidor's highlights before the inevitability.
Yeah, of some not even modestly decent fights coming up. Warning there. But yeah, the big old Mayhem against Bearmoth and Stinger. Oh, going into this one, you'd put Thermidor down as the weakest of the three, but you know, Bearmoth's first World Championship love and Stinger's grand final appearance can't pull it through, and
Whereas Thermidor still just has Julia Reed berating it in the pits all day. She doesn't give it a hope in heck, but along it comes, and it's not messing about at all. Like, even before the surprise Uta, it's still flipping Bearmoth towards the wall and craftily avoiding Stinger's damaging hits, we'll go with. I don't know why Bearmoth was just driving towards the arena wall in the first place with its back to Thermidor, but...
Class of Ant Pritchard there.
Yeah, I think they needed Kevin Cleesby to exist a few years earlier, given some of that practice. Yeah, he was not born yet, apparently, but... Yeah, Bearmoth just exposes its rear end to the lobster, and out of the arena they go in one of the most memorable, iconic, fantastic Utas of all time. And it's not the only one in the battle either, is it?
No, after a bit of waiting we do get another one. Stinger kind of just hobbles around after one exchange between the two where they both meet with their weapons, but after that it's a bit of a limp fest for a good 30 seconds. But Thermidor does get the...
Well, it is. I don't want to downplay this fight.
I was about to say Thermidor does get the second Uta, and it's a nice little roll into the camera, so...
Yeah, it's not as individually, like, stunning as the Behemoth one, but
it's clean.
It's the second one
in
one fight.
It's the cherry on the cake.
Exactly.
We've never seen a robot get two Utas in one fight. At this point in time, the only robots to do it at all were Chaos 2, Gemini and Bearmoth, I think. Thermidor must have been the 4th, and then they do the double job.
Yeah.
And that's something that they're associated with for the rest of their Robot Wars campaign. Even in Series 7, when Utas were complete commonplace, they were still being regarded as the double Uta king.
It's the only thing they could find to big up, to be honest.
And you know, they're both on very respectable opponents as well. No one would ever get Stinger out of the arena again.
No.
Behemoth would go out a couple more times, but that is kind of the liberty of having 49 televised fights on Robot Wars, of which this is still honestly one of its best. You know, to say you have 49 fights on Robot Wars and just you getting chucked out of the arena by Thermidor is still seen as one of the most loved. It just goes to show how adored Thermidor's performance is.
Yeah.
Unlike their performance in the Annihilator, which the Mayhem unlocked for them.
In true Thermidor 2 style, giving us the show of its potential and then giving us one of the most Thermidor 2-esque losses of all time. I still never work out how it actually loses in this. It just flat out does die unless someone hit it in the background, which I've never seen before.
Splinter is the one that pushes it into the CPZ, and then we never see it again. You know,
Sit on the top.
Some little credit. Thermidor gets a flip on Hypno Disc, bringing it up into the air. Pussycat also becomes immobile in this first battle, so had Thermidor been a little more reliable, something we'd say to it a lot. Yeah, it would have, and then could have gone on to win the Annihilator potentially.
Maybe.
It's obviously in there with complete all-stars and unallowed Terminator. You know, we've got Exterminator, Pussycat, Hypno Disc, Splinter.
Did you say Exterminator?
Yes.
Oh.
I think that was 6, was it? Well, either way, Thermidor is the one that gets the 6th place and gives us a truly forgettable Annihilator performance. Very disappointing, but at the end of the day, you wouldn't swap them out for anyone else because that would delete the Mayhem from existence, and that's pretty much the highlight of all of Extreme for me. However, maybe you would swap Thermidor out of their other competition in Extreme.
Just swap the whole competition. The tag team Terrible with its partner Cerberus. What partnership this was.
Yeah, the most iconic Cerberus partnership since Tyrone's grandma and Cerberus on Coronation Street. I mean, some slight credit, Thermidor and Cerberus get 3rd place in the entire tag team terror. That's if you want to phrase it very generously. But
their first fight against Smithy and something is just shambolic. Smithy just dies and starts driving back and forth very slowly, and then Thermidor they get one flip on something and something is just stuck on
it's
these
a pretty
spikes.
cool KO to be
It
fair.
is,
Just
but
completely chucks it into the arena floor to kill it off. So yeah, little underrated gem of a Thermidor attack there, I guess.
But it's the only attack to speak of in the whole battle. Like, you'd think, if you say, oh, Thermidor's had a combat battle with Smidsy, that sounds brilliant.
It does,
Oh, they didn't even make contact. Thermidor has got a combat win over Smidsy, but in the very loosest sense, and they do move on. Cerberus has beaten Smidsy. Oh. But they did not beat the Steel Avenger and Suicidal Tendencies.
And in true Thermidor 2 style, they break down randomly.
Yeah, they do nothing of note in this battle whatsoever. They get axed by Steel Avenger when they're already dead. And
yes, or as Ollie said in the Steel Avenger podcast, that was a KO by the Steel Avenger. Less convinced there. I think it's more Thermidor 2 dying.
And Cerberus lasts to a judge's decision, so they do okay, but they still mount no sort of offense whatsoever. And, you know, as a result, if Cerberus could win it, maybe they'd be the one getting the mini-bot and the overpowered playable robot in Extreme Destruction instead of Suicidal Tendencies, but it wasn't to be, and Thermidor and Cerberus get pretty much the least honourable 3rd place in anything Robot Wars ever.
Pretty much, yeah.
I mean, CV in the University Challenge, anybody?
But yeah, Thermidor 2 still does have a couple of extra little tidbits in Extreme. We have the Flipper Frenzy in there.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
And again, on paper, Thermidor 2 fight looks really, really good. Sometimes it delivers, but here we have a different type of good fight with Bigger Brother Chaos 2 and Wheelie Big Cheese, because the competitors attack, I'd say the House Robots, but it was just bash. It was just bash.
Well, Matilda was attacked by Wheelie Big Cheese. The only problem is that Wheelie Big Cheese failed.
Yeah, pretty badly.
Yeah, didn't even get a single attack on Matilda.
Didn't even want to show us the camera angle of the attack, it was that bad.
Yeah, I mean, Jonathan Pierce, the poor lad, he gives Thermidor all the credit for flipping Sergeant Bash from the front by slipping its flipper underneath his lid, but it's absolutely Chaos 2 doing the flip behind Sergeant Bash.
Yeah.
I think they just kind of had to play Thermidor up as the one getting that flip, because they don't flip Bash again, as far as I'm aware, and ultimately, they do actually win this fight.
Yeah, the thing is, for what we've already said and what we will say about Thermidor 2 just randomly dying at points, here it outlasts them all, because Chaos 2 flips itself over, Wheelie Big Cheese dies, Bigger Brother also dies because it's extreme Bigger Brother and just kind of a mess. And so it's Thermidor 2 who's still standing at the end, even though probably the last one you'd expect, but...
What I especially love is that this fight was included on the Sir Kill-A-Lot DVD as a special feature, which allows you to choose the camera angles for the whole fight, so you can review this battle from every available angle.
Can't relate, never
And
works
you
for me.
still can't work out why Bigger Brother died.
It just dies after it chucks Bash upwards, its flipper gets stuck.
Yeah,
That's
you
it.
get a little bit more of the Thermidor versus Matilda action at the end as well, which the Thermidor was completely losing. But, you know, they get a flick on Chaos 2 at one point to put it on its side. It was already over and couldn't self-right, but
Yeah.
they got an attack. At the end of the day, lifetime record, Thermidor versus Wheelie Big Cheese, only Thermidor has won. Thermidor versus Bigger Brother, only Thermidor has won. And Thermidor versus Chaos 2, only Thermidor has won it. They've just got all these radical all-star wins through no real effort of its own, but they certainly did, and David Harding and Ian Harvey get a statement win of sorts.
Statement win podcast this. It's absolutely incredible stuff. And speaking about statement wins, Thermidor gets time for one more in Extreme with its incredibly heated vengeance with Napalm. I mean, we could talk all day about the bit of rivalry between these two, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean, This is a 2019 podcast. I don't think we want to get into a whole sexism debacle in the modern day. Let's just say it was faked for TV back in the days. It was a little more acceptable. I wouldn't call it acceptable, but...
All I want to say is, of all the Roboteers they got to try and do this like kayfabe acting, David Harvey's got to be one of the worst at it.
Oh, absolutely.
Those women should stay in the kitchen, yeah.
He's trying
nice and friendly.
He's trying so hard not to giggle every time he's on screen.
I like Thermidor winning the grudge match against Napalm is kind of down there with Pussycat winning the War of Independence in the US broadcast version of Robot Wars. Just, they've set up a story, okay, America needs to win the War of Independence over England, as they do. Oh, Napalm needs to show that women are allowed in Robot Wars and are accepted members of the community, while Thermidor's being a sexist pig. But no, Thermidor just dominates the battle and throws them out of the arena and shows that, wait until the reboot, ladies.
Yeah. Women were banned from the rest of Classic Robot Wars after that.
Yeah, Chompot didn't qualify for Series 7. Tomahawk was still with very much its male original team.
You get your Iron Maidens and that's it, ladies.
What a shame. What a shame. Thermidor 2 ruining the progression of our sport dearly there.
But that kind of sums up Thermidor's Extreme though, and it's hard to say where Thermidor's peak was, because in terms of combat record and performance through the competitions, Thermidor has the best time in Series 4 and 7, whereas Extreme, Thermidor has that big failure in the Annihilator, coming 6th out of 6, but they also get their most memorable wins of all time. The huge Mayhem victory, their biggest win of them all, and even backed up by an Uter on Napalm and a win against Giants and Goliaths in the Flipper Frenzy asterisk.
5 wins over All-Stars and Extreme, so...
Yeah, they even, you can include Smidsy, a future seeded robot.
Yeah.
I think their actual win-loss record for Extreme was
4-2.
4-2. That's more wins than they got in Series 4 and 7 then, where they went 3-1. So, yeah, despite the Annihilator complete flub, it's otherwise probably Thermidor's most memorable campaign. Unless even, well, there's another Extreme as well. Gosh, Thermidor... Yeah. The master of the mixed bag, but that brings us into Series 5, where we start to get a quick look at the lower end of Thermidor's career.
Thankfully, after that last fight we had, Thermidor 2 gets a bit of karma against prize fighter Mac 2.
Yeah, so there's no place for women in Robot Wars, but there's place for retired pensioners.
Oh, absolutely there is. This fight is absolutely bizarre, because prize fighter completely gets chucked around at the start, and funnily enough loses drive on one side, so Thermidor 2 is well on its way here to round 2, but then they keep moving into prize fighter and onto prize fighter and getting flipped over, and at one point they kill themselves self-righting. This is one of the biggest bottle jobs from a winning position I've ever seen.
Yeah.
It's absolutely amazing.
Apparently at some point in self-writing they bent up the lid of their flipper, and so they couldn't get under prize fighter, and
they
then
just killed their own radio. It was unreliable at this stage, I believe they said.
Yeah, it is pretty shocking, because as you say, prize fighter barely moves throughout the fight. It barely mounts I don't think it mounts an offensive attack. I think it just...
No, it's all just Thermidor.
Yeah, Thermidor runs into it and it takes its opportunity. But and they do die at the end, and this is something that we're going to see again.
No, it's quite well disguised. Prize Fighter's campaign is entirely seen as a positive run in Series 5. I've never really seen anyone publicly try to discredit their win over Thermidor. But, I mean, the truth is they were dead on one side, and Thermidor, all they had to do was do nothing, but they decided to do something and got them killed, and they were pretty much one of the only returning heat winners to not make at least a heat final. In Series 5, they let the fans down, but Prize Fighter moved on. They got to beat the Alien and gave us a classic against Wild Thing, so... kind of worth it in the end.
Versus Wild Thing wouldn't have been bad itself, though, to be fair.
Yeah, I feel like Thermidor would win, just as long as it doesn't have a classic Series 5 failure.
It's against an All-Star, so it'll be okay.
Yeah, Thermidor only does well if it's against serious opposition, like Dreadnought.
Exactly. Nailed it. But, Thermidor, it was one of those things, they had teething issues with their internals. They just needed to face an all-star to get going again. So, they end up in Series 6.
Yeah, Napalm.
Facing a future semi-finalist 13 Black, a future feminist winner Chompalot, and an all-star Stinger. So, it's beaten semi-finalists before.
It's beaten Stinger before.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's got a massive chance of progressing.
And it would lose to Chompalot in the future, but I think Chompalot was supposed to be the free pass of that fight. No one really had any expectations of them, but Thermidor, in theory, they were the favourites for the whole battle, because Stinger was the seeded one and Thermidor had beaten it previously.
Yeah, JP was hyping out beforehand. He was saying Thermidor's flipper's back and hoping to do well, so...
I mean, granted, JP hyped it up, but if you watched the episode leading up to that fight, then, boy, Mentorn were convinced to spoil this fight. I kid you not, the clip of Thermidor 2 driving into the pit after it had already been counted out was played not once, not twice, but 3 times before the battle actually took place.
Amazing.
In a, it's not like disguised in the background or anything, or like covered up by a puff of smoke. you visibly see Thermidor just drive into the pit in the opening montages at least twice. And that's why the Robot Wars Wiki used a picture of Thermidor in the pit as its spoiler tag image when we were doing our Series 10 write-ups. But even though the drive into the pit is perhaps the most remembered part of Thermidor's frankly poor Series 6 campaign, it's actually a nice little vengeance job from Stinger that you can't really see.
Yeah, off in the background on the up camera angle, bird's eye view, you're seeing like the top left corner, Stinger just clattering Thermidor 2 on the top a bit. Creates a bit of a hole, actually hits a drive motor, and Thermidor 2 loses drive for a good amount of time. It does free itself up in the end to drive down the pit, but it's a bit too late by that stage, mate.
Yeah, genuinely a one-hit KO from Stinger. Probably the best knockout Stinger has ever had.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But definitely at the expense of Thermidor, and meanwhile 13 Black and Chompalot are in there somewhere.
They're doing something, yeah.
I don't think either of them ever make contact with Thermidor in this battle, but 13 Black's the only one left standing at the end of it. Even Stinger dies by the end, but Thermidor resoundingly comes fourth. That was that for them.
Thermidor's career at this stage looks like it's completely petering out. 2 round 1 defeats in a row. Just completely fallen off that extreme hype train it tried to create for itself. So, you know, Extreme 2's a bit of fun. You know, you have your serious competitions, your less serious ones. Thermidor 2's no longer at that stage where it can compete in competitions like the All-Stars. So it goes for something that's competitive and tries to get redemption for its horrible Annihilator performance in the first series of Extreme by entering this one as well. And it's a really good ride, this Annihilator for it.
Yeah, frankly does so. Like, in the same sense that Thermidor has wins over Wheelie Big Cheese and Chaos 2 and Bigger Brother, it's also got a win over Typhoon 2, notched up in the first round of this one. The only Typhoon 2 loss that would ever take place was asterisk Thermidor 2 asterisk performance asterisk. It's of course it doesn't do a great deal in the round where Typhoon actually falls. It's just kind of getting flipped by Raging Reality, but just by surviving it did a better job than it did in Extreme 1's Annihilator.
Absolutely, yeah. And once it got past that shakier one-on-one segment with Raging Reality in round 1, it went from strength to strength as we moved forward in this tournament. And round 2 was a nice show of its damage capabilities as well. Absolutely clattering into Major Tom's front wing and just obliterating it in one hit. Who said those claws can't do damage, my friend?
Yeah, they're even static weapons at this point, but it actually carves a hole in
through it.
Front of Major Tom somehow, and gets a good flip on Raging Reality at one point as well, until ultimately it's Can Opener that takes care of Raging Reality and later Rotas, for some reason, who we've not even addressed as being in this Annihilator yet. Haven't even given its full name yet, Revenge of Trouble and Strife. But that's the second win in a row for Thermidor, and they're in the top 4 of the Annihilator now, which is pretty good. But they managed to go further.
They did, and speaking about Revenge of Trouble and Strife, it's about time for Thermidor 2 to deal with that, isn't it? Safe to say, this was the next machine on the agenda for it, the next All-Star to fall. I'm sure you'll agree that Revenge of Trouble and Strife is up there in the upper echelons of
Thermidor 2 confidently taking on a full-body spinner, hot off the back of defeating Typhoon 2.
Confidence is there.
And surviving 13 Black-ish. They actually just take the fight to Rotas for the whole fight. They give it a couple of flips, don't quite get it over until eventually they do. And that's the lot. They flip Rotas. It had already Warrior Clanned at this point. The spinner had stopped and the flipper went with it, so there was no hope of self-righting. And then Can Opener just drops it towards the pit. Thermidor pushes it in, and they're in the top 3. And what you've got to remember, if you're David Hardy and Nigel Blackenberry in the Annihilator, You're stuck in a three-way for the place in the final, and one of those robots is Major Tom. So you gotta feel like you're in a pretty good spot here, all things considered.
Well, the thing is, they know that they're in a good spot, and they think, well, let's just get this done with over as quickly as possible. And so they team up with Can Opener on Major Tom, Major Bloody Tom.
An attempted Uta takes place and doesn't quite sail over the wall. We haven't seen Thermidor achieve an Uta since the Extreme 1 Napalm fight. But as soon as Major Tom is just backed into the wall, they're dead, and then they just have to leave the house robots to it. Thermidor quietly parks in a CPZ, hiding behind Ref Bot and Can Opener, and waits for the final to take place. Oh, the final.
The final.
Can Opener is a strange bot for Thermidor to face because like Thermidor, it's also got that massive kind of like, I don't even know what you'd call it. Kind of,
Just width.
yeah,
Just
width.
width.
It's like
It's
offensive
a big
width.
Width and length with the rear spike on Can Opener, which has applied its special lobster cracker claws designed to pierce all the way through Thermidor, and well, I mean, it does pierce some mighty holes in there.
Yeah.
In what could arguably be the best Annihilator final to ever take place on Robot Wars. The only other option is Razor versus Onslaught, which is famous for very, very different reasons.
Yeah.
Sleeping on Dominator Spikesaurus.
There was never a bad Annihilator final, to be fair. They were all at least good.
Can Opener versus Ripper might have something.
They were
to
all
say
at least
about.
good before Series 7.
Yeah. Drillzilla versus Ripper Raptor is one of the worst fights of all time.
We're not going there.
At least it's not Bunny Attack.
Yeah. But, as Luke said, this is a very hard matchup for Thermidor 2 because it does have a lot of reach on its flipper, but the actual tip of its flipper is just very, very narrow. So, unlike a machine which, like in the Series 7 Annihilator, Ripper can just move Can Opener over essentially in round 1 because it's got a wide, bigger bucket. It can lift it by the claws and tumble it over. Thermidor 2 kind of just like pokes it upwards here and there, and it just lands back on top of it whenever it tries to flip it. And as the battle goes on and on, Thermidor 2 gets more and more bad until like at one stage where it just cuts away for a second, comes back, and Thermidor 2's like completely not even red anymore. It's lost its paint, it's got a buckled wheel, it's got a hole in the back and in the tyre, the flipper lips peeled up, the eye's got a patch on it or something.
Yeah, Can Opener gives Thermidor a bit of a taste of its own medicine, going back to that chronic thing of just like peeling its face off.
Yeah.
You'd almost think that Thermidor would have done better against Can Opener in Series 8, because at least that's a more compact, flippable design. Thermidor still does really well. They're pushing Can Opener around the arena, and they survive for, I mean, if you count the time until it was pitted, because it was still mobile on one side, it wasn't in danger of getting counted out at that stage. They do survive for the full 4 minutes and 56 seconds while taking severe damage, but they're not completely dead. And they're still trying their best to bring the fight to Can Opener, and what is honestly just a brilliant fight in general. One of the highlights of Extreme 2, I would reckon. But Can Opener deserves it in the end. They get that late pitting after their Crusher display, showing Thermidor from Series 3 what a horizontal Crusher pair was truly meant to be like. But that second place in Annihilator is still a respectable finish from Thermidor and makes it somewhat of a redemption arc. I think they needed a full Annihilator win to truly redeem 2 whole series of failure, but it's a positive record for Nigel Blackenbury.
Especially considering this is the bot we've seen like in its past few fights just dying single hits or just no hits at all. It's gone to the end of an Annihilator. And that's a testament to durability, if nothing else.
Yeah, and you wouldn't exactly be unhappy with the team if they just decided there and then to go out on a pretty good tournament and pack it in completely, but no, they come back for Series 7 where there's a few ruthless newcomers and dangerous spinners advancing through the wars, so Thermidor 2 gets a heat with Mighty Mouse in it.
Yeah, none of those
Hey, I mean-
newcomers are in this heat.
Mobot's a very innovative undercutter,
That's
bar
true.
spinner. It's got
True.
all of the reboot factors. Nigel Blackenbury's gone again, the poor lad, to be swapped back out for Ian Harvey. Don't want to give him just a tiny bit of credit though, because I did read the Thermidor website, and genuinely, that Nigel lad had been involved with the build process of every Thermidor every single year. He
Hero.
just didn't want to be on TV because he was a bit camera shy. And so he only did it for the Annihilator when Mr. Harvey couldn't be around. But he's bobbed off home again. And Thermidor, as the 14th seed, in spite of its
Yikes.
recent
Kind of-
failures.
Yeah, one of the many bots who kind of profited of the dearth of all-stars here. They're really like, alright, we'll just take any former semi-finalist. Is Hardvark applying this year? We'll have him.
King Bee Powerworks just cries in a corner. But, I mean, I don't disagree with Thermidor being the 14th seed. Yes, it's been on a hot streak of losing in main competitions, but in terms of recognisable robots,
Yeah.
Thermidor's right up there in like the top 30 minimum. People knew who Thermidor was. It's got video game appearances, it's got
Yeah.
statement wins in Series 4 and Extreme, even has a reasonable finish in Extreme 2, which is technically the most up-to-date series. Granted, Extreme 2 had no effect on the Series 7 seeding whatsoever. Bulldog
But
Breed would have
still.
been the 12th seed regardless of that Tag Team Terror performance. That's my just quiet opinion going to slip in there.
Well, I mean, who else are you going to shove in there? What, are you going to shove in Disco Inferno or Barbarous? Get out of here.
Ming Dynasty's the 14th seed, Zorro's the 15th seed.
Oh my god.
I mean, genuinely, I don't know if we're ever going to have a Ming podcast, so it's decent time to say. I mean, who would you see? I would give it to Pulverizer, quite frankly.
I mean, I could agree with that.
If not, it has to be either King Bee or Steel Avenger,
I
really.
mean, I'd always be the type to want to promote one of the good machines from Series 6. They got to the Heat Finals, but Pulverizer's fine.
Supernova's
Experience is
probably
fine.
the one out of those.
Well, Supernova's been around since Series 2, so...
Yeah. Oblivion comes back for Series 7.
Give it
Soren
Catherine.
Belendren would have been a mentor in Robot Wars Battle of the Stars. He's that respected.
Yeah, just give it Cat 3. If you're going to put him in All-Stars, just give it.
Oh, imagine Cat 3 wins St. Agro's heat.
Gross.
But
Anyway.
Thermidor is the 14th seed regardless, and they finally win a first round battle again after all this time, getting an out of the arena flip on Mobot, proving that they're not afraid of spinners anymore.
Yeah.
Out goes Mobot confidently, and then get a nice one flip kill on Beast as well, chucking it into the side.
They legitimately kill everyone else in this fight. Like,
Oh, yeah.
never mind taking out 2 bots in one heat. Just take them all out. I'm surprised they didn't spring for Cassius Chrome or whatever.
Yeah, they do manage to get Mighty Mouse in the pit at the end of it all.
Yeah.
I mean, Beast pits itself after they've been counted out, but it was originally Thermidor's kill, so it was kind of what they needed to justify that seeding.
Yeah, but absolutely. But I think we need to mention it features the rear tail as well to stop it rearing up. Thermidor 2. That's why I got the Uter on Mobot.
Yeah,
It's first Uter in a good while now. 3-4 series.
Lessons learned from Dan Tonkier there on the back of Thermidor 2.
Yeah.
There is one thing I do like in this fight where when they flip Beast tries to self-right and like all of their CO2 comes out at once. It's just immediately evident, yeah, they're not coming back over.
Beast and Thermidor would be in the same heat again in the next wars, and Team Mighty Mouse.
Crikey.
But first of all, Thermidor needs to deal with the Kraken.
No.
No. Oh no.
It needs to deal with the Kraken.
Kind of a starker contrast between a first round and a second round performance I don't think exists.
Yeah, clean, efficient, dominant, round 1. And then here, lads, if you're still listening by this point, I'm sure when you heard the name, the Kraken, you turned off anyway, but if you're still around, tell me if you like this fight, please. We need someone to like it, please.
Thermidor probably would have been better off losing this. That would have been less of a stain on their legacy. You know, Thermidor has a history of losing to Crushers now with can opener rolling in and whatnot. But, I mean, they do dominate the fight. There's no single point apart from a single wedging attack where Thermidor is in any danger, but it's just a complete embarrassment from David Harding at the controls, trying to flip Kraken out of the arena, flip the Kraken into the pit, and just stumbles and stubs its toe at every available opportunity.
Yeah. Scoops Kraken too high up its own flipper to get it out of the arena because it chucks it over its own head. As you say, trying to play about with the pit to still save some face, ends up getting even more egg on its face.
Yeah, tries to do the M2 Tiberius 3 and just puts Kraken back in the fight instead. Less said the better, I think. They do.
You can't even say it got the win in the end because it did, but we're not going to say how it happened because that's just giving it praise where it doesn't deserve it at this stage.
And then there's a heat final.
Oh, bloody hell.
Let's give the narrative here. The producers were trying to pick up a big old grudge match from Series 4. The plan was for Thermidor 2 and Chronic the Wedgehog to have a fight again after all these years, and they've given both of them a free pass to the heat final in what has to be the easiest heat lineup in the whole of Series 7, along with only Atomic and Smidsy's Heat G. But Chronic just completely bottles it and loses to Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, saying that Thermidor 2 bottled a massive win against Prize Fighter, here's another one. Chronic. How did Chronic lose that? And how did we actually end up getting Mike Mouse in a heat final? It just never gets more real, that fact that Mighty Mouse was a heat finalist that went all the way as well. Judge's decision and everything.
Yeah, it was one Thermidor 2 fluke breakdown, as we were used to at this point, away from Mighty Mouse being in the semi-finals.
Yeah, but Nigel Blackenbury, he got the reliability sorted. No Mighty Mouse in the semis, I'm afraid.
That could have been a proper Firestorm versus the Morgue alternate timeline. But, I mean, yeah, obviously Thermidor just completely dominates this fight until Mighty Mouse loses the ability to turn left and right. It's supposed to be a crab that can't move forwards and backwards, but yeah, Mighty Mouse just it stays in the arena. Thermidor couldn't get that credit. They couldn't get the pitting like they did in the first round fight either. It genuinely goes the distance, but Thermidor wins and Trevor Wright starts formulating in his mind how he's going to defeat the mighty Thermidor 2. He has a burning vengeance on his mind, and he'll spend the next 12 years thinking about
12
that
years
one.
in the making, that mastermind that ended up following.
Honestly,
go on.
I was going to say, maybe it's for the best that Mighty Mouse won that, because imagine if they'd bigged up the big Chronic Thermidor rematch. Thermidor gets its first flipping and then Chronic dies.
Well, that's the thing, if Chronic did not break down, I think Chronic would have easily beaten Thermidor 2.
They would have, but I can't...
It's basically a bigger prize fighter.
Yeah. I mean, if they if they did work, but they brought down against Mighty Mouse, so I'm not going to give them that credit.
They both just break down.
Hey, I mean,
they don't start.
Prize fighter broke down against Thermidor, but still won. Chronic can do the exact same thing and move on to what is the follow-up to Trevor Wright's burning grudge match. This time, Gary Cairns absolutely seething that Thermidor was witness to its loss to Raging Reality and Can Opener. And Typhoon 2 returns to level the scores with Thermidor 2 and very easily does so.
Yeah. Who thought Thermidor 2 trying to box rush something was a good idea?
I mean, we've given...
Oh, well, I did against Dreadnought, I apologise.
we've given him stick for some random breakdowns.
This is one of their best series, for results.
I think no shame whatsoever dying in one hit to Typhoon 2.
Series 4 and 7, Thermidor 2 manages a shocking joint 9th place and always falls to either the eventual runner-up or the champion. If you think about it, Series 4 it got 9th place out of 98, I think. Series 7 it gets 9th place out of 128.
Yeah.
So it is, statistically, Thermidor's best run. but then you can also say Series 4 had to run through 2 seeds to get there, whereas Series 7 it was the seed in possibly the easiest heat lineup of all time. And they dealt with the heat comfortably enough, but as soon as they were in the semis, they were completely out of their depth and suffer a shock upset to a newcomer. The seeded machine is out. Thermidor gets one hit KO'd and charbroiled over the flame pit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, their only hope is Gary's finger slips and hits that self-destruct button.
It's a bit of a shame, really. Thermidor 2 could have given us some good fights in the semi-finals if it had a better draw. Like, there were some really decent flipper fights, decent.
Yeah, if they managed to flip for Typhoon 2 over, they would have fought with Atomic for a place in the grand final. That'd be fun. Genuinely, Thermidor versus M2 would be a fantastic fight.
That would be.
I would love that kind of thing, and even like the Grim Reaper would be a nice
aggro,
close one. I think Thermidor could beat Raging Nightmare.
Yeah, that's.
They've already had a couple of challenges with Raging Reality.
Yeah.
The Burning Grudge match once again. But I mean, I think we can live without Thermidor 2 getting a top 8 finish in Series 7 at the same time, and that's the end of their campaign. For 12 years, they just go immediately into hiding. They're repaired after the Typhoon damage, but they just sit in a garage for 12 years. I even went to a book signing in 2015 time with the YouTuber Stuart Ashen, known on YouTube as Ashens, who is famously Ian Harvey's cousin and had referenced Thermidor 2 in a couple of his videos, and I just went up to him at the book signing. I thought, what do I say? How's Ian Harvey doing? Is Thermidor still around? And he says, oh yeah, it's still around, it's just in the shed waiting for an opportunity to come back out.
Right, put that on the wiki.
I did. The outside Robot Wars section was birthed. But genuinely, like 2 weeks later, the reboot gets announced.
There you go.
And look who does come back.
Yeah.
It's Thermidor 2.
Out the shed, in the arena. Boom, boom.
Schrodinger's paint job, where they're just orange in all the official shots, including the one of it entering the arena, but in every single televised shot in and out of the arena, it's the red we're always used to. Somehow they've boosted it up to 110 kilograms. I've got no idea how, because they've switched over to lithium polymer batteries, which should, in theory, take weight away from you. All those returning unchanged veterans like Terra Turtle and Infernal Contraption got lighter in this series, but Thermidor apparently gained 10 kilograms. I couldn't possibly tell you how.
Paradox claws.
Well, yeah, that, and the fact they did change the face as well. They made the eyes angrier.
They painted a nose onto it. They must have used Team Waiachi's Hydra-style $2,000 paint to add up. Or maybe some crustacean anti-spinner paint would have come in handy.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, in the Ironside 3 defense.
Yeah.
Once again, I am glad that Thermidor came back, because it was really nice to see that it still existed, and it continued the trend of being the one returning heat winner from Series 7, keeping up with Reaper from the pilot, and Bonk as the seed in a heat with Razor and Carbide and Behemoth and Terahertz. You've got your Tough as Nails falling in round 1. You've got
Storm 2.
Dance on Here and Storm 2 were fair enough, but yeah, Thermidor was the favourite in a heat with Pulsar and Ironside 3 and Gabriel, and they did I was about to say they did about as well as you would expect, but actually they kind of did worse, because yes, it was the kill from Trevor Wright and Mighty Mouse 2, Ironside 3, that delivered the hit to Thermidor off screen, might we add.
Oh no.
We don't even see the kill shot.
Thermidor killed again off screen, brilliant.
But all we see of Thermidor in this fight is it largely losing to Chompalot, the robot it lost alongside in Series 6. And in the end, the feminism comes through. Debs Cook with a big win on Thermidor 2.
Yeah, you really see the progress from 2001 to 2016. But I mean, Thermidor wouldn't have been suited to the live event meta of the time
Yeah.
with all its big, wide wedge
I
flippers.
don't think they would have been suited to the Series 7 live event era.
But in a era of modern spinners, Thermidor 2 was very much out of time, and what it got here is what it was always going to get.
And then back in the shed.
Yeah,
For the best.
One flip, one hit from the bar spinner was all it took, and then Patricia Wright and Louise Hemstock do it for the ladies, and David Harding goes back home. They even bothered to put Thermidor 2 maxed out on their t-shirts.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
You know, it's kind of Thermidor 2.5, but yeah, the amount of robots they could have beaten in Series 8 was mainly restricted to the fellow Round 1 losers. Nice to see them back. David Harding even said on a podcast once he was going to work on something a bit more hardoxy for another series, but I don't think we ever saw anything that slightly come to light there.
No.
And that's the end for our favourite lobster, Thermidor 2.
Lovely stuff. So, after some modest fights, some bad fights, some fights where you don't even see KOs, and some all-time classics, what are our individual favourites from Thermidor 2? It can be its best performance, it's just the outright best battle, anything you like.
Yeah, Thermidor's one where there's two quite clear answers, really. Maybe three if you include the Flipper Frenzy, but...
Dreadnought, Mighty Mouse, Kraken.
Yeah.
Series 8 Melee.
You know what, I'm going to get to that one, actually. I would say, like, the two best are the Mayhem from Extreme and the can opener loss from the Annihilator final. But if we're talking personally, I do really like that Series 8 Melee.
Oh.
Mostly because I went to the filming of Series 8 and I got to round 2, and so I saw Pulsar versus Ironside 3, and I saw that Ironside and Pulsar were there in the second round. So when I saw that Thermidor Melee on the TV, seeing how Chompalot did a spirited performance and Pulsar was mostly dead, I thought, if the judges actually gave this to Pulsar and Ironside 3, I'm going to kick off. But they didn't. They genuinely gave it to Chompalot, and it got an extra fight out of Gabriel, changed the course of history, and so I was just really pleased to see Chompalot get that win, and their side armour comes flying off. The other one got a chip in it, and that chipped side armour piece from Chompalot is in my wardrobe, actually. I own that little piece of Chompalot, so I've got plenty of connections to that melee.
Amazing story there from our man. Yeah, I'll give a standard shout out to Pussycat v Thermidor in the semis. Very good fight. Thermidor's showing a bit of durability, showing its flipper power, especially for the time. Ended up losing, but nothing disgraceful about it at all, and just a very good fight overall. Just wish it was a bit longer, lads.
Yeah, same fight here. That entire semi-final's an absolute gem.
And the can opener fight.
But like Nick said, you've got Thermidor putting on a really good performance, chucking Pussycat about, and then you got just that lovely kind of Pussycat destruction it does in Series 4, where it just kind of gouges and rips a robot apart without like killing them outright.
Just a nice exhibition period from both of them in that fight, really. And Thermidor 2 ended up with a record of 15-9. It's pretty decent. So I think David Harding, Ian Harvey, Nigel Blackenberry and co will take that.
Eli Kirkpatrick.
And
Sarah Snowling.
Yes, yeah. There we go as well. And
something to be proud of. They had a lot of lows in their career, but the highs were really entertaining. It was a novel design, and Robot Wars wouldn't quite be the same without Thermidor 2. Great robot to have around. We love it. We'd love to see you again, Team Lobster, sometime. My name's Dave, this is Ian, this is our robot Thermidor 2. We're angry, we're ready for fight. Come back for the next podcast.
See ya.
Perfect.